family and the friends of John Tennent or Jack Laurie. I think with Jack's death, I think with Jack's death we see some of the different aspects that death can have. In Jack's case, I guess a certain sense of completion. He's lived a long life, a very long life. And towards the end, there's simply been that wearing out with the combination of age and illness. So with his death, I guess we see that natural cycle of life and death happening. We can make sense of his death. Sometimes, as we know, death doesn't make much sense as people die seemingly before their time. But with Jack, as I say, we see that natural cycle happening. But having said that, we're also aware that it's not as simple as that. I think death, like life itself, is never quite as straightforward as what we work out in our heads. And only because today we're not simply talking about the death of an elderly man, we're talking about Jack who's died. Jack who's been part of your family, been a friend. And of course, that makes all the difference. In our families, there's that natural connection that we have. You know, we often talk about family bonds, and we know that those bonds develop in so many different ways. When death comes, it's one of those times when we're strongly aware of how much a part of us they are. But as well as family, people come into our lives in a whole variety of ways. Through our work, through sharing a common interest, through being neighbours. A couple of Jack's carers were here simply because of the impact that he made on their lives. And it's like that, isn't it? Certain people come into our lives and they make a difference. I guess they add something to our lives, and of course we hope we bring something to theirs. So it's through those friendships and in our families that we're very much aware of being in life together with each other. And when death comes, an awareness of an ending. And there's a sense of loss, and perhaps what we could describe as a gentle sadness that will just ebb and flow. Gentle, but still very real. And again, it says to us something about how much a part of each other's life we have been. So we reflect on that today, we're aware of that. But more particularly now, we'd like to look back over those times of Jack's life as a way of recognising the place that he's had in the world, and especially, of course, the place that he's had in your world. And we're doing that now through words and images and music. And the words firstly are from his nephew Duncan.
First of all, I'd just like to thank everyone for attending. Well, I wasn't planning on speaking, so I'll just have to wing this. I just go back to family memories as long as I can remember. It's about 50 years of being with Uncle Jack at Christmas. Just being the uncle that he'd always have a game of cricket. He'd always be happy to have a play with you. He wasn't so happy once I got into playing rep football, but he didn't really want to play in the backyard then. But you just remember things like, I used to go with Dad to Studley Park, play golf. They were both terrible, but Jack used to always win. He was just the better hacker on the day. Like, I've really got nothing to say. Just going to miss the old fella. No one to speak to on a Sunday afternoon having a beer. And just the way he treated my family, my partner and my two children, you couldn't ask for a better uncle. Thanks, old mate. I'll miss you.
I think there's all sorts of ways that we have of looking back on a person's life. With Jack, I guess we can see the different parts of his life. age of his life brought him here to Australia, where his firm sent him out here. That working life continued for a little while in insurance, and then, as you know, he started his own printing business. And when that was bought out, he continued in the firm, and I think that's where Sharon came in. And then, of course, coming here to Australia is where he met Mary, and so that family part of his life took off with he and Mary created a family life together with their daughter Fiona. And then as the generations came and went, he became grandfather to Jason. Marrying Mary, of course, became part of Mary's family as well. Always good friends with Joy and Keith and all the family there. So there was that family life, his working life, and I guess you could say the people who came into his life. I was talking to Janelle the other day and talking about the things that Jack enjoyed. She mentioned how he and Mary loved dancing. Of course, his regular game of golf with his mates. He loved his reading and his crosswords, cigarettes and scotch, and he still lived to 92. And especially people. And I think that's Janelle and Jeff and Gail, his neighbours, sort of attest to that, how they say he was sort of the best of neighbours. Always busy, always willing to help. Simply one of those people who had time for you. And that's, I guess, was probably one of the things that made him so successful in business, the way that he was able to relate. And we see the impact that he had on Sharon and the family, where he and Mary became godfather to Katie and Rachel. So he was one of those people, I guess we call, he was a person people, someone who just spread friendship wherever he went, whether it was in the family, whether it was at work, at golf, or simply at home with the neighbours. So I thought we'd have a few moments now where we can look back on some of those times of Jack's life through some of the images of his life.
Never before
I guess the main thing about Jack's life is how long he lived and all those things that he saw happen in his lifetime. But more important than the length of his life, of course, was the way in which he's lived his life. And that's very much part of the legacy that he's left. That legacy that we keep with us through the memories that we have. We remember all sorts of things. And sometimes they're the things that we see as the important things of life. What Jack was like as a man, the qualities that he had and the values that he lived. On the personal level, the difference that he's made to your lives. Big realities that we find really impossible to adequately express, because no matter what we say, we think, yes, that's right, but there was more to him than that. There was more to us, to our relationship, than what words can encompass. And one of the ways in which we deal with that is to do, I think, what we do almost automatically. That is, we remember, talk about the things that we did together with one another. Now, I always think there's sort of a number of different ways that we have of looking back on a person's life. Now, one of them is we can sort of sit down and do a timeline. When Jack was born, all the dates and the facts and the figures. Another one is to do what I did just rather briefly earlier, just give a sort of brief overview of Jack's life. And then there's the more informal way that we have. That is, we tell the stories of what we did together with one another. And I'm a firm believer in the strength of stories. Because stories have I think they have a power of their own, because they are not simply a looking back. When we tell a story, we not only remember what we did, but we also recall what it was like when we were doing it, what life felt like when we were together. And it is that takes what seemingly is a very mundane event and makes it precious for us. While it is a looking back, it's more than that. It's a way in which we take something of that past and we keep it. We keep with us something of that very spirit of life that we've shared with each other. And it is with these memories that you have of Jack that we now bid him farewell. So we'd like to stand for our farewell ceremony. Thanks. And as we take our partings from Jack today, we do so with all those many different thoughts and feelings, those that range from sadness and loss to gratitude and appreciation of Jack's life, all those things that come from being family with him, from having been part of something of the simple goodness of life with him.